So I've got an update on the Abrego Garcia story. Obviously, there's a huge Tennessee angle on this, as Garcia was clearly bringing people back from Texas to Maryland. For what purpose? I mean, human trafficking is the conventional wisdom here. There was a belief in 2022 that he was engaged in human trafficking, and nothing was done about it. As a matter of fact, Joe Biden's FBI said, "Don't do anything, let him go." More on that coming up in just a moment. Why the Tennessee Highway Patrol decided to do it. I mean, I don't fault them. If you respond to what you believe is a federal issue, illegal immigration / human trafficking, and you engage in the federal authorities, and the federal authorities tell you to let them go, I guess you just follow the orders, comrade, I suppose. In the meantime, if this seems to be the hill that the Democrats want to die on, and if that's the case, I say bring it on. By now, the individual is well documented. I don't have to go over his past any further. The question that I had was why he was being held in CCOT, in the El Salvadorian prison. He was detained there because the El Salvadorians wanted him detained there because they know that he was a member of MS-13. And a fairly high-ranking member of MS-13, according to reports. His argument for staying in the United States of America in 2019 was due to his membership in MS-13. Literally arguing that because of his previous, now he called it previous gang membership, that the new rival gang that had taken over in El Salvador at the time, Barrio 18, would have had him killed had he been returned to El Salvador, which was why he was granted asylum in 2019. Well, those conditions don't exist in El Salvador anymore. If you want to make the case that he should have had a hearing indicating that those conditions do not exist anymore, fine. Because one of two things would have happened at that hearing. One, he would have either been returned to El Salvador as he was, or two, he would have been taken to a different country. Under no circumstances would he have been left in the United States of America. But it seems increasingly obvious that the Democrats care about an illegal alien gang member more than they do the American people. As evidenced by Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen and his trip to El Salvador to meet with Garcia. And he eventually got to meet with him, and he was in a nice-looking shirt and hat, and apparently he's been moved to a different detention facility. Well, there were questions last Thursday when we were leaving the airwaves, and I suppose those questions continued on Friday. Who's paying for all of this? Well, Van Hollen has now admitted that the American taxpayer paid for his trip. Oh, and it's not by a long shot over. He admitted that his trip to El Salvador was paid for by the American taxpaying citizen. Van Hollen took heat from Republicans and one of his constituents. That would be Patty Morin. Now, you might know that name. She's the mother of a slain woman in Maryland. You know how many times Van Hollen has met with her? That would be 0. On Fox and Friends this morning, Caroline Leavitt, the incredible White House spokesperson, rebuked Van Hollen, and the American public said that they should know the truth. He's an illegal alien, a foreign terrorist, a criminal MS-13 gang member who violated our country's laws by coming here in the first place. Shame on Senator Chris Van Hollen and the entire Democrat Party who wasted Easter Sunday going on every television show in the country to advocate for the return of an illegal criminal gang member that doesn't belong in the United States of America. This is who the Democrat Party is for advocating. It's ridiculous, said Leavitt. Well, they're not done. 4 more. See, this is what Democrats do. What have I told you all about Democrats, right? That they double down on stupid all the time. When they somehow convince themselves that they have a winning hand, and they base what they consider to be a winning hand on the idea that all of you are stupid, and none of you are stupid. Y'all are the smartest listening audience on planet Earth. Well, they think you're dumb. We got that going for us. We got this going for us, too. They always overplay their hand, and the American people see through it. They see through their bluff. So Van Hollen, the The Democrats think Van Hollen did a great thing. Oh, look at that meet and greet. Oh, look at those visuals. Oh, that's awesome. Look at that. And so now they want more of them. More of them want to go down there. So Representatives Robert Garcia of California, Maxwell Frost of Florida, Yasaman Ansari of Arizona, and Maxine Dexter of Oregon have now announced in a press release today that they have arrived in El Salvador. They're there. They're going to, quote, pressure the Trump administration to abide by a Supreme Court order to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The return of Garcia. You know, people ask me on occasion, Murphy, what would you want to happen about, any subject matter? Now, I don't determine what happens, but here's what I would love to happen. I almost wish, and I don't believe the Trump administration is going to do this. They don't technically have the ability to do it because we cannot tell the El Salvadorian people through their government what to do with an El Salvadorian citizen. Garcia has nothing to do with this country. We don't have any authority to tell. I mean, it's not like he's an American citizen that they're holding, and we want to negotiate his release. He's an El Salvadorian. He didn't belong here. We have no say as to whether or not they hand him over. And the Supreme Court understood that, which is why they changed the verbiage of the order to facilitate, meaning to make it easy, to make it as easy as possible. Well, that means that if the El Salvadorian said, yes, we will hand him over, then we as a nation are required to bring him back. But here's what I would love to see. I would love to see, because we all know that we could do it if we wanted to, right? I mean, obviously. Just like Joe Biden could have shut down the southern border if he wanted to. Just like they could have prevented the infusion of 8 to 10 million illegal aliens over the course of 4 years. They could have done something about that if they wanted to, but they claimed they couldn't. The president could probably pick up the phone and tell the El Salvadorian president, hey, we want this dude back, and he could get him back, right? What I would love to see that happen. I would love to see the president say, okay, the Supreme Court says that we should facilitate this, so we're going to abide by the Supreme Court ruling. And you get him on a plane, and you bring him back at taxpayer expense, sadly, and you can announce that. Look, this is what this trip is costing. It shouldn't cost us anything because the results are going to be the same. And you get him in front of a judge and let the judge determine whether or not there is still a danger in El Salvador for his return, and if there is, to send him to another country. There are plenty of countries that we have agreements with. Because Garcia is either going one of two places. He's either going back to El Salvador or he's going to a different country. He's not staying here. On no planet is he staying here. Right? The Democrats seem to think that if they pitch a temper tantrum, much like children in a grocery store wanting a piece of candy, if they scream and yell and stomp their feet long enough, they'll get their way. And they seem to believe that the Supreme Court has given them an avenue for success. What is imagine for a moment, what do you think victory looks like for them? What is victory for the Democrat Party right now? That a gang member of MS-13, known to be a gang member, gets to return, that we know for a fact entered the United States of America illegally in either 2009 or 2011. I've seen conflicting reports. But he was here for years before he was finally caught. And he was brought before a judge, and a deportation order was issued against Garcia in 2019. And he claimed asylum at that time. And his asylum claim was accepted at that time. But we know that he was a member of MS-13 because he said he was. That was his argument. So victory for them is that we see an individual that broke our laws allowed back into the country while American citizens continue to be abused and used and raped in some cases and killed by illegal alien activity. That's a victory for them. So they hate the president of the United States more than they want to abide by our immigration law. In the meantime, gotaways on the southern border are next to zero. Illegal border crossings have gone from the tens of thousands to next to zero. Meanwhile, in 91 days under the Trump administration, they have managed to do what Joe Biden claimed he could not do. And the mainstream media doesn't cover that story. Of course they don't. The American people overwhelmingly support American sovereignty through border security. The American people overwhelmingly support deporting criminal illegal aliens. Overwhelmingly. In the meantime, Donald Trump on a Truth Social post said this: radical lunatic Democrats and their comrades in the fake news media are falsely making Kilmar Abrego Garcia out to be a very sweet and innocent person, which is a total, blatant, and dangerous lie. Garcia has been found by 2 separate courts to be a member of the violent killer gang MS-13, was in our country illegally and under a deportation order. It's despicable and un-American for liberals in the mainstream media to hate our country so much, be obsessed with protecting criminals instead of keeping our borders safe, streets, and families safe. Those lying to the American people on behalf of violent criminals have to be held responsible by the agencies and the courts. Make America great again. The 4 Democrats argued, so I think we should acquiesce to their demands. These Democrats are demanding that he be brought back. We bring him back and we deport him. Either back to El Salvador immediately or back to a country of our choosing. And that is the end of that story.